But one of the pieces of feedback we received from our previous program is it would be nice to go around the room and do introductions so we know who is joining us today. So if you wouldn't mind just standing up, sharing with us your name, the program you graduated from, and what you're up to now, or if you're looking for a new opportunity, this is a great group of people that will help you out. Let us know so we can help you. So again, my name's Mariah Huntley. I graduated from the Nonprofit Management Program back in 2005, so it's my 10-year anniversary. So if you don't mind starting, Sarah, can I pick on you since you're about to put a piece of food in your mouth?
It's always the best time to get.
Yes, if you could stand up, that'd be helpful.
I'm Michelle Yamshanya. I graduated in the MBA program. I'm currently a leader in the IT department.
Hi, I'm Jody Munson. I graduated in 11 from the MBA program, and I work on the alumni board as well. There's always opportunities there if you want to get involved.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jenny Kaya. I'm a professor in the School of Business and Chair of Management, Marketing, and Public Administration. So, welcome.
Fine, Phil.
I'm Jane Prince. I'm actually an alum of the School of Law, and I'm the Law Alumni Director. And I'm also a candidate for City Council in St. Paul.
Microphone. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Lindberg, Human Resource Manager, actually MPA 2013, Human Resource Manager for Three Rivers Park District by day, City Council member for the City of St. Louis Park by night.
I'm Jason McGrew-King. I graduated from the Public Administration program in 2013, and I work at Three Rivers Park District. I'm the Community and Intergovernmental Relations Supervisor, and then I also brought Judy McDowell with me, who also works at Three Rivers, and I'm on the School of Business Alumni Board as well.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Cipolla. Sorry, it's early. I graduated from, I got my MBA here in 2014, and I started a company called My Sister, and along with 24 other businesses, we became the first benefit corporations in Minnesota history on January 2nd of this year, and we sell apparel, jewelry, beauty products to benefit survivors of sex trafficking. So.
We planned that, Luke.
Hey everyone, Luke Salzwedel, graduated in 2010, economics degree and biology, but I guess that doesn't matter as much here. I'm currently on the board. I'm the president of the board of directors for the Alumni Association, and I work in business intelligence, Deluxe Corporation right over in Shoreview. So thanks for coming.
Hi, I'm Dawn Bentley. I was a biology undergrad, so it totally matters. And I got a dual degree at Hamlin MBA and M&M last year. I graduated, and I'm the executive director of Art Shanty Projects. And my guest is Jane.
Good morning. My name is Heidi Fisher, and I am a graduate of the Nonprofit Management Program back in 2004. I'm also a doctorate student at the Public Administration Program.
Good morning, I'm Rob Ruthio. I teach in the nonprofit program now. I used to teach in the MBA program and will be getting back to teaching in the MBA program this summer and currently serve as director of nonprofit programs. So welcome. Good, nice to see a lot of familiar faces.
Hi, I'm Megan Annenson. I'm an alumni of the nonprofit program in 2010. And I'm currently working with Minnesota Alliance with Youth, which hosts AmeriCorps Promise Fellows all around the state of Minnesota.
Good morning, Jim Kuhn, class of 2007 in the Nonprofit Management Program. I work in development at St. John's University. I live in Minneapolis, not here in St. Paul.
My name is Steve Boland. I'm a graduate with the Nonprofit Management Program from 2011. I started my own firm a little while ago. Next to nonprofits, I do consulting on social fundraising and social communication strategies for nonprofits.
morning. I'm Cameron. I just graduated in 2014, finance major, undergrad. I'm now working with Bank of America Merrill Lynch in St. Paul here. So I cold call a lot, so anybody needs a job. Positive energy, they always ask me to go over there with them, so let me know. I can find you guys a place.
How about a loan? Good morning, Craig Waldron. I'm a faculty member here and also a DPA grad, class 2003.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brooke Thompson. I did the nonprofit management program. Graduated in 2011, and I'm the development director at the Annex Teen Clinic in Robbinsdale.
Morning, I'm Lori Martinson. I'm a MAPA grad from 2003, and I'm the Director of Operations at DNR. And with me is Erica Rivers, who's the Director of Parks and Trails.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Kathy Mann Arnott, the Assistant Dean for Administration with the School of Business here at Hamlin. We're happy to have you. Good morning. I don't know which way to stand. Beth Bivas. I'm a two-time graduate of Hamlin, philosophy and political science, 1995, CLA, and MPA 2011. I'm a management consultant with the state of Minnesota.
So I have to pick on the late arriver. Do you mind sharing with us your name and your program and what you're up to now?
I would be happy to. I'm actually a Hamlin staffer. I work in the Development and Alumni Relations Office. My name is Mary Salisbury.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Wow, what an illustrious group of people. I'm honored to be here with you. Just as a reminder, or not as a reminder, but for your information, we are filming today's session. And the reason why that's important for you to know is that to make sure you don't have spinach in your teeth. But also, if you're going to be asking any questions of Jim after his presentation, there are 5 microphones in the room. So if there's not one at your table, there's one close by. And if you could just use that to make so that people who are watching afterwards can know what we're asking of Jim, that would be great. So I have the honor of introducing Jim Scheibel, who's going to be speaking to us today. He has such an incredible background and experiences that I feel like I hardly know where to begin. I had the honor of having breakfast with him maybe a year or so ago and hearing about the impact that he's had not only in our local community but nationwide. One of the things I love, he has a quote in his bio that's on the Hamlin website about his teaching style that I think is very reflective of who he is as a person. He said, "People learn the skills to be active citizens and co-creators of their community by scholarly work, action, and reflection." And that is a quote that really resonated with me, so I wanted to share that as the introduction. Jim has been a council member and past mayor of the city of St. Paul, a great city of St. Paul, among numerous other incredible accomplishments. So I want to get Jim up here and speaking to us. So welcome, Jim.
Thanks, Mariah. Is my mic working? Good. I don't like big podiums. Anybody know why I don't like big podiums? There's a Hamlin connection, particularly to big podiums. When I was running for mayor in 1989, final candidate I ran against was Bob Fletcher, who was quarterback for Hamlin. We do share our support of the Pipers during football season and good friends. But it was there were about 10 people in the primary. And so after the primary was down to Bob and me, and I don't know why we both agreed to a major debate the day after at noon after the primary. And it was, of course, the Midway Chamber of Commerce. So nobody, turns down the Midway Chamber of Commerce. Well, it was a big story. And so I show up, and there are all kinds of mics and cameras because this is the final 2. It doesn't go into overtime, so everybody's ready. And there's a photographer there taking photos. And if I stand here and somebody is down there taking photos, guess what happens? So it was the Pioneer Press reporter. So he took a picture, and this much of me showed. Now, the bad thing they did is they took that picture and put it in the press room. Jane, remember the old press room next to the council chambers? They put that up, and they threatened if I did not cooperate with the media during the campaign, somehow that picture might find its way to the public. So I don't appreciate big podiums. How many? Some of you have had me for ethics, correct? And how do I usually start the ethics session? Yeah, the ethicist. So just this morning, it is early, and you need to get your academic thinking going. So I have a question for you. How many people, when you think of Youngstown and Allenstown, what do you think of? Okay, but where, just sort of what, Youngstown, Ohio, Allenstown, Pennsylvania, industrial and coal. So are they vibrant cities? What's your picture of them? Particularly, think of the recession. Did communities like that get really hit hard? They did. Now, if you look at those, if you go to those cities today, Youngstown is still really struggling. Allentown has really made a comeback. Now here's the question. What is the difference? What made the difference between Allenstown and Youngstown? Very similar, coal, industrial, hit hard by recession. One is in very good shape today, one continues to struggle. What is the difference between the two?
Social capital.
Absolutely right. Let me get the, the difference is, so if you go back to the 70s, Youngstown, they're very similar. Had a median income of $25,000 and home value of $52,000. In Allentown, median income was $34,000, but today it's $144,000. So they really made a difference. And the answer is social capital. And there's a book about how did the Gardens Club not save Youngstown. I'll hand out sort of some references, but it's really an interesting study. And the fact is, if you look at successful communities and cities and school districts, a major variable is the social capital of those communities. So what I want to do this morning, how many people here like movies at theaters? And I really like the previews. So this is not going to be a full-blown looking at social capital. What I'd rather do this morning is sort of share with you some sort of introductions, some upcoming films or movies that might be taught here at Hamlin. So they're connected, but so this morning I want to cover just what is social capital. We're having a little discussion about what is social capital. How do you develop it? And particularly, I want to focus on you as alums. You are an amazing network of social capital for Hamlin, for our programs in the community. So I want to have a conversation with you. How does Hamlin and how do we put that social capital together to create better communities and better programs here at Hamlin? So again, just a little preview. So just a lot of people throughout this term, social capital. To start with, because it's early in the morning, nobody's going to I'm going to give you a couple longer definitions, but they're hard to remember. But Mark Moore, who is the head of the nonprofit program at the Kennedy School at Harvard, he talks about and writes a lot about social capital. And I like it. The one thing you should remember if you remember just one thing, remember social capital is a powerful public idea. So if somebody asks you today, what is social capital? To start with, and every one of those words I think is really important. Powerful, we're going to talk a lot about the public part, and it is an idea. Now, you don't have to, and I can send out my slides, but social capital refers to the collective value, so there's some key concepts. It's collective value of social networks. And another way to think about social capital, and knowing many of you in this room, you have incredible networks. So social capital is all those social networks and inclinations that arise from the networks to do things for each other. So we all have networks, and sometimes it's pretty handy to use them for ourselves. But social capital is really looking at how do we use those social networks for the benefit of everyone. And one more definition, because I want to put it in the context of higher education. And particularly when we have reunions or gatherings back of schools, it's always good to think about. And people today particularly are questioning and asking, what is the role of higher education in our community? It's really great to hear where all of you are working. To me, it says that education hopefully played some sense of bringing a different perspective and ideas to your workplace. So I'm going to look at it from the context of social capital, particularly another word or concept I like to talk about, sort of a preview of a movie, is the whole concept of public work. And as I hear your backgrounds, whether it's with the state or nonprofits, and I like the idea of social capital because it isn't only government, it's not only nonprofits, but it's a true area where the business, where we all come together. And actually, you can't have social capital. If it's all government, it's going to fail. If nonprofits bring their social capital together, it's not going to work. And the business community, so it's about addressing major issues. But in an academic setting, academic public work is scholarly or creative activity integral to the school's academic area. It encompasses different forms of making knowledge about, for, and diverse public and communities. Through a coherent, purposeful sequence of activities, it contributes to the public good and yields artifacts of public and intellectual value. So I want to talk about, explain what does that mean, and particularly what does it mean in our programs here at Hamlin? How can we as a graduate school, and you as students, and you as alum, and I really want to focus a lot on the alum part, how can we play a role in bettering and furthering our communities? I do want to make a pitch. Allentown, Youngstown, great examples. Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the Twin Cities area, if you think about why we are successful, we do have our challenges, but there's an incredible network of people. Carlene Rhodes is retiring, who's the head of the St. Paul Foundation. I'm going to stop at an event for her this afternoon. I wish we had a camera there because it would be a picture of social capital, people from all the sectors coming together. So the St. Paul Foundation, great asset, great resource, really has built this community. But I know Carlene would tell you, without that network that the foundation pulls together, they wouldn't have the successes. So if you just look at your own communities, if you look at all the people who use parks and trails and the different sectors, an incredible network. And if you can bring those networks together for the public good. Just a word about social capital and building it. Some not such good news is social capital, people that do the academic research and study it, actually has declined over the last 2 decades. how many of you are familiar with the word or the book Bowling Alone? A lot. And Robert Putnam, again, my goal today is just for you to walk out with some reading, some books, some people that you want to explore more. Robert Putnam writes a lot and is most famous for his Bowling Alone. And the concept of bowling alone is he looks at, how many people here still bowl? Do you bowl alone? But what has happened, what it refers to is people still are bowling. But if you go back to particularly the 60s and even 70s, people used to do things a lot more in groups, in leagues. So bowling alone is, yes, people still bowl. But if you look at people belonging to organizations and being really active participants, social capital has really declined. Now, some of the data, I think some of you know, I serve as president of Minnesota AARP, 650,000 members in Minnesota. So if you took that number, gee, there's 650,000 people, or 50 plus people that belong to AARP. And as president and the staff and our executive council really looking, how can we tap that capital that's there and make it social for the common good? But it does throw the numbers because you can look and say, people are belonging, but why do people join AARP? Yes, now, if I had a little more time, I'd make a pitch about the real work AARP does. But the fact is, those kinds of numbers, the NRA, they really, people still do belong, but it's a different kind of belonging. And if you read Bowling Alone, another book on the book list or reference list is Robert Putnam, just 3 weeks ago, latest book is called Our Kids. So Megan, the Alliance should really read that book. And it's really about how do we address the critical issue of our young people? The answer really goes back to the social capital. So Robert Putnam, again, just remember, I can give you all kinds of journals and things to read, but it's on the decline. So part of the goal today is how do we build, I want to look at how do we build the social capital here at Hamlin, particularly about alum, to have stronger programs and do more with the community. In thinking about social capital, we need to really be strategic about how we build that capital. So it just doesn't happen. But going back, like Parks and Rec, really being very strategic about you've got a good base of people who use parks, the parks and trails. Who else might be connected with that? So in building social capital, we certainly want to grow, but we want to build on what we had before. So how do we, next question, next movie coming up is, how do we build social capital? How do we create social capital? I want to give you a couple, one, in a minute I want us to take a little break, and I'll pass, maybe people can start passing out. There's 150 ways to build social capital. And actually there's about 145 listed, and I want us to take just 5 minutes for each table to come up with one more. Jamie, you want to? So one, you'll see there's just a lot of practical ways. So there's 150 ways. But my answer when people ask me, how do you build social capital? Jane, what do you think I say? Yeah, well, I organize. Jane's a great organizer. So I think one answer is you'll see there's all kinds of ways individually and groups. You can start looking at that. But I want to make a pitch, and if the way I look at how do we build, because I'm really interested in that public value. So you can grow your network, but that doesn't mean necessarily the community or the public is going to benefit from that. So actually, I had a great experience this January. I taught a J-term in community organizing. And those 25 students, many of them are continuing to organize. And I would say they really understand the power of bringing people together, to looking at power. And I was really pleased that one of the lessons they learned is they understand the distinction between charity and helping, which is really important, and advocacy and working for change. And we want to use our social capital not to just help people, but to really work for changes. So why do I like organizing so much? So organizing builds social capital. And if I had more time, I've got some great case studies I use about education. How many of you think education is a critical issue today? I mean, particularly in this area. My answer is we need to build social capital, and we need to organize. So in organizing, and I think this is sort of an important ingredient, I love to cook, and I love looking at different herbs and sort of putting the right ingredients together. And I think organizing brings the right ingredients together for social capital. And one of those is in organizing, we organize for social justice. So I think that social justice perspective is really important. It isn't just about going out and building a network, but behind our organizing is social justice. Organizing is also, one person isn't going to do it. I can't bring about change itself. It takes a group of people. And thinking back to my J term, what I saw, young people became organizers, and they were able, they practiced their leadership. They reached out. They went out and did a lot of one-on-ones with people. And they said, gee, and part of organizing is you don't just talk, I don't talk to Jane all the time, who I share so many things with. You reach out to get a perspective of other people. And organizing does that. You want to widen and bring in different people. And it gives people the chance to use their skills. Also, social capital, as you can see in some of those 150 steps, in order to get things done, people need to trust people. And it is disturbing to me today when we hear about our particularly elected officials. There's just such a lack of trust. And we really need to turn that around. And I think through organizing, if you think about when people know people, and they understand, when people see the sort of the mutual self-interest, then we can accomplish things. So building that trust. And Putnam and a lot of the other research people, Pew, our trust just keeps sinking. So we need to turn that around. And so it's social capital and organizing that will do that. And also organizing, push people. We got to have people of diverse backgrounds, and we're very different communities. So I like to overlay when people say to me, how do you build social capital? I give them the answer, go out and organize. And you can take my J term if you want an introduction to Community Organizing 101 in it. And part of organizing and social capital is bringing people in. I have a number of the students that were in the course this year want to help look at the course for next year and want to be part of the course and mentor other students. So it's sort of that building and reaching out. Another great, one of the books on the reference is education, particularly education relating to the achievement gap. A wonderful book on school reform is called A Match on Dry Grass by Mark Warren and Karen Mapp. I highly recommend it. It's a book about organizing. It's a book about using social capital. So any good course, summer's going to be here, the sun's going to be out, you're going to need some beach reading. Our Kids is really a great book by Putnam, and Mark Warren and Karen Mapp's book just a really great study about how the parents, the community, everybody came together to reform the schools. So I want to take just 5 minutes because I love that list of 150. By the way, you can see there's a whole website on social capital through Harvard. And what I like to do is each table to try and come up with one more. As you can see, the list isn't complete. And if not, I'd like each table just to share one of those that sort of struck you or you think would be a good tool or something that you can do to build social capital. So we'll just take 5 minutes for each table to come up with a new one or one effective.
There are so many on here, it's hard to know whether what we'd suggest is already on here. Maybe that doesn't matter. I think I saw a book club somewhere. Maybe on the. Good. Yeah, it's 96. What was that?
Joining like the Chamber of Commerce, picking one that help you.
I like the buy a big hot tub one.
Yeah, I like that one too. I saw that.
My pen just died off.
Free libraries in the front yard.
My building's putting one up. You know, I live in a high rise. So we're doing a high rise free library.
You draw the farmers, you draw the people who are interested. Yeah, they're really.
Well, no, they'll be outside, but it'll be a high rise style. So it'll probably have a couple.
Oh,
Yeah.
at Fort Snelling? That would be lovely.
That little amphitheater. Maybe don't pay the musicians, maybe you just vet them so they're appropriate.
How would you use that to build more connections, I wonder? Like, it seems like there's a way to move that into some type of, so that people are connected and feel like I think what you're getting at is not just the point in time event, but something that would build a.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And some of the people, other professors I worked around the country, around organizing, are really pushing about that more virtual. I mean, that's right, yeah.
Parents feel like it's safe.
Yeah, yeah.
Been there.
Yep.
Because the outdoors are scary.
Is that Fort Snelling?
Yeah.
So fortunately, check.
Yeah, done.
Yeah, but that's all hard work. That's all hard work.
Oh,
To happen, yeah.
And because we don't, have the legislative oversight, so everything she does, she has to go.
And they always move the nice ride bike stations around, so just because you have it 1 year doesn't mean you're gonna have enough. They have to have enough use. So you have to generate the interest and the awareness so that you keep it active and use.
I think it's challenge
Okay, does every table have one they liked or a new one?
No, you guys, I think the farmer's market is a great idea.
Okay, well,
Farmers markets in
That's
state
QBR's
parks.
No, that's great. No, no, sorry.
okay. Okay, well, we'll hear the wisdom of the different tables. I think 8 o'clock wisdom is always better than 10 o'clock at night wisdom, in my opinion. But I know there's some people that flip that around. But okay.
So we came up with one concept that any of us can do, and it's really close and will be easy, but volunteering here at the Hamlin Career Development Center. So we get really connected to young people that are just starting in their career, they're graduating, or they're trying to figure out which path they want to take, and it's a really fulfilling experience. Something we all like.
Say it again.
That's a great concept because sort of part 4 of my little discussion this morning will relate directly to that idea. So, who's next?
We talked about food a lot. So one of the things that I have been to in the last couple of years is an event called Dinner in White. Does anybody know about what that is at all? No one's heard of it? Oh, it's a sort of wonderful event that it's on Facebook. If you go on Facebook, search for Dinner in White. You sign up to be a part of the group, and it's basically a flash mob dinner. Happens somewhere in the Twin Cities. And the way it works is you find out the location. You know the time and the date, but you find out the location about an hour before it's supposed to happen. And you bring everything. So you bring your table, your tablecloth, all your food. You invite friends if you want to. And you have to dress in white, which is a little bit pretentious, but it ends up being kind of fun. Usually it's around the summer solstice. 2 years ago it was at the Sculpture Garden. Last year it was just adjacent to the Stone Arch Bridge. But it's really kind of fun because it brings together 200 to 300 people who don't know each other, basically. So it becomes sort of a fun event where you put your table next to somebody else. You get these long lines of tables and sit next to people that you don't know, and it's a great way to meet people and brings everybody together for a fun event. So.
I heard, and how do you hear about that?
On Facebook, you sign up.
So, there was just some of the discussion earlier about there is a connection with social media and building social capital. So I think that's a great example.
So go check it out.
So keeping with the theme of food, Lori was sharing a story about her church and how they created 2 dining rooms within their church, and were able to really get a lot of people coming to dinner Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And so being the director of state parks, I got to thinking about, well, food is sort of that universal, connector of people. And so the idea we came up with was to host a farmer's market at Fort Snelling State Park, which is on the end of the light rail. And that would be a great way to bring really diverse audiences together. And people in general at these farmers markets tend to talk to one another and network with one another. So it seemed like an idea of sort of place-based, bringing people to the park and letting them know that this great resource exists and having a lot of that social interaction as well.
Perhaps we were led to this answer, but I think taking a J-term class at Hamlin would be a really good idea. Or just a community ed class, another class. I know that my connections while in the programs here at Hamlin have really stayed with me throughout. And I appreciate that social capital for sure. And another thing I thought of was someone told me when we were in fundraising that if you wanted to get money, you should ask for advice. And if you wanted advice, you should ask for money. And so sometimes asking for advice from people that you've met in your various social networks will end up bringing a different kind of capital, and that's been pretty lucrative for us at our shanties for sure.
I have 2 microphones, so I guess I have to go next. We actually
so you
talked
get 2 ideas, I
right?
guess.
Pressure, Jim. We actually talked about attending events like this and being able to network with our fellow alums and have intentional conversations.
dueling ideas. We started went for a few places about Little Free Libraries, which is a really cool idea too, but wanted to talk about the intentional utilization of virtual spaces as a way of building social capital too, that there should not be an either or, that the ability to leverage your communications within circles in a way that people that can't physically be here can see it. Can help build more connections to why do they want to come to the next thing. So I've not only tweeted a few times while I've been here, but I posted to a closed group of Hamlin alums from my cohort, from the MNN program, that we keep in touch on Facebook with a closed group because we want to be able to share our snarkiness without having to be public about it, and to be able to go to them and say, I'm sitting here with Jim again, and just know that those 14 people that are in that group get to see that and go, oh, right, Hamlin does those things where I can come in person and think about it, rather than I got an invitation and I know nothing about whether that was a valuable event. I'm sure, probably was, but whatever. But now somebody that I'm connected to socially said that was a really valuable thing, and next time maybe I can bridge the gap, get there at 7:30 in the morning, all that stuff.
So, right, I just want, now I think just about everybody here, how many of you had 4-hour sessions, courses? Or you did have 4. So, that our model now in the MPA and the MBA and nonprofit, it's the 4 hours. So I'm teaching a capstone right now. I'm going to have 20 plus, Rob, how many nonprofit people? Yeah, about 30 graduating in May. But that 4th hour, it can be a killer, can't it? So this isn't in the script, but one of my ideas to build social capital is we really don't have sort of a pub or gathering place really near that's Hamlin sort of oriented. So I do come from a family that had bars and sort of deep down, and I like to cook. So the other day in the capstone, we were talking about really how to be engaged with the community and build a network with each other. So they came up with the name of the pub we're going to have, called the 4th Hour. So we'll have 3 hours in class, and then we can have a mixing of all the different disciplines around food and whatever. So just wanted to plant that seed about, look for the opening of the 4th hour sometime in the near future. Sort of next preview of a film is I want us to look a little bit about, focus on the programs here at Hamlin, and particularly your role as alums. There's another one of the books on the reading list is Education Democracy by Harry Boyd, which is a series of writings. I'm using it with my capstone class right now, looking about how do we, both the Hamlin community, build Hamlin, but build a larger community as part of our education. I'm going to be speaking with Jenny's honors class tonight, and we're going to have a discussion about how education is also education in building democracy. And I believe we have to be a lot more intentional, or can be a lot more intentional about that in our curriculum and courses and the activities that we have. So there's a group called Imagining America, which looks at how do we build a greater democracy? Where do we learn those skills? How do we come together to practice democracy? The group is Imagining America. And it's sort of like, I think, knowing many of you in this room, I would say one thing that is sort of a common theme is you really want to do great public work. That you went into, you did your graduate work and other studying the work you did today, because you want to make a difference. So if people want to make a difference, how do we, you shouldn't have to wait until you graduate, till you walk on stage to start doing that public work. So how can we, what would a campus look like? What would a program look like that really encouraged and opened up and was democracy, education for democracy? So what might that look like? And some of these are taken from Imagining America has sort of 3 different reports, really good, sort of on this theme of making democracy work. So what might that look like? One, we might develop a peer review process that includes non-academic people. So when professors, instructors are being reviewed here, why not some of you being part of that evaluation? We also, in higher ed, we love people to go on to academic careers, but this is where I think Hamlin gets really high marks, is you want to do public work. You want to pursue your scholarly interests, but you also want to make a difference. So how does our curriculum reflect that? Even I will throw out, as people know, I'm a big supporter of public service. What would it look like if all the master's programs had a requirement connected with some course to do some kind of public service? What kind of message would that send? Particularly, I know a discussion many of us have had before, when people are doing their capstone or their project, how does that connect with creating or building a better Hamlin or a better outside community? And 21st, there's also a group of MPA people, some 20 that will be graduating, they're working, but, and I know both capstone classes right now are doing have some amazing topics and doing really interesting work. So I do give us high marks here at Hamlin about, if you look at the faculty around the room, I mean, people do come from very practical, professional backgrounds, and they bring that academic with it. So how are we intentional about connecting with the community? So looking at our products, how do we create a better community? Final movie, entitled Citizens Alum. Have any of you heard that concept before? Citizen alum. You know, I love talking about my FISEM. Their goal is they write their final paper on how, during their years at Hamlin, are they a citizen student. So you have a special role now as citizen alums. And actually, there's something called the American Commonwealth Project, which I participate in, Hamlin participates in, to look about how colleges and universities, higher education today, is that training ground for democracy. In January 2012, at the White House, the American Commonwealth Project and others announced the formation of citizen alums. You're actually, our Dean Ann McCarthy and many of you, we're really looking at how do we have a more robust and active alum group. So here's some ideas to get you thinking, and then some of you might have some other ideas. So one is sort of the obvious, going back to how do we connect our alums with current students, both undergrads and graduates. And I don't know if we could come up with 150 ideas, but I bet you we could come up with 100 different ways that we can connect with current people. Just sort of a little warning, I love this. This is from Citizens Alum. Avoid the clubhouse culture. Now, I don't know if I believe in giving your college and university. I'm a St. John's grad, so this is not saying people do not have to give financially. It's really important to the work. But I think it's sort of a warning about we want to be very inclusive. And some alum association, if you're not a major donor, people can really be left out. And I know what the work the alum groups are doing right now is we want people to give, we want to feel people connected, but we want to have people also, there's other ways people to contribute. And as I said earlier, if we had more time, if this was a full class, wouldn't it be great to map out all the different connections in this room? So I would probably say we have really high social capital and networks, and would be amazing about how many different connections there are. Looking, so as a lot of the citizen alums around the country very much connect with current students. Things like mentoring, making presentations, being a big national service supporter. Tufts University, their alum group, supports alumni who spend a 5th year working in the community. So they raise funds and support that activity. So after somebody graduates, they continue for 1 more year working in the community. Syracuse University has started a program called for Engagement Fellows, where they're looking at how do they keep people working in the community. The University of Michigan, are you part of Citizens Alum, Jenny, at the University of Michigan? They have some, I think they have some 32 chapters of Citizens Alums. And they take sort of an organizing approach, the different groups, about what can be done, how can we bring our network together. And a real leader is our neighbor at Metro State. And they have an alumni listening program. So sort of one, and this is one I think we could easily implement. So their students go out and interview an alum. And then they transcribe it, they look at what kind of action, they make some kind of connection. So I think, and that isn't only for undergrads. I know many of you in your graduate school, what we're talking about today, you want to build a network. And what a great way to go out and to learn. Also another Citizens alum, many help with capstones by coming in and making their presentation. So literally, I think if we had more time, we probably could come up with a list. But citizen alums really look at how do we build capital, social capital, for better communities. So finally, so I just want to close with remember, if you remember one thing, it's a powerful public idea. So as you go back to your workplaces today, and they'll say, why were you up so early? What were you doing having breakfast at 7:30? You can say you heard about a powerful public idea of social capital and talk about that. So a question we've been talking about, how do we make that a powerful idea here at Hamlin? So I'd be glad to hear your ideas or answer any questions at this point.
I like to pride myself on knowing names, but I good memory. I don't know your names, so I apologize. But you ask for money and you get advice. You ask for advice, you get money. Well, everything I've got from Hamlin up to this point, the 2 different conferences or these morning breakfasts are great. Other than that, it's been asking for money opposed to asking for, you can go on to multiple networking sites or multiple lead generation sites, and it's hard to get an alumni network from Hamlin that's actually a solid number or a solid connection point. Even to Piper or something that I had used with career development, I reached out to multiple Hamlin alumni and never got a response because it probably just didn't get to them. They would have been more than willing to at least get something back to me. But I think that'd be the key to it is maybe just asking for something as simple as, what are you doing now? Can you just write us a couple sentences or give us your name and number opposed to asking for money for the up-and-coming student? I mean, if they want the money, they should be calling and asking for advice and then cultivating that relationship opposed to having some sort of intermediary do it. I know I reached out to multiple through the Hamlin websites and never got any responses.
Any of the alums want to respond? And part.
There wouldn't be anybody. I would only imagine that you guys got it.
But don't you think this idea of citizen alum and what we talked about today, it's recognizing, I mean, you're an example of you want to be involved and engaged and connect with other people. And it isn't just about money. And the thing we know is when people are active or make a connection, they're much more likely to provide some funds or make a donation.
I would say I get 70% response from Hamlin alumni that are willing to just connect just because I say I'm from Hamlin. So I would say don't stop trying. Or get a hold of Terry Middleford at the Career Development Center. You're a fairly recent grad, and he'll connect you up with individuals that have already expressed an interest to connect. And then you won't be just doing a cold call. You'll be getting connected with people that are really volunteering to meet with you.
Yeah, and I utilized that, and some of the alum that were on there were from 88 or, you know, they probably just don't have updated information on it. They could have moved and that.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that go on in life that I feel like reaching out to the alumni network with something as easy as, you know, how's it going? What are you up to now? Can you give us some advice? Maybe you're a successful grad or something a lot easier to connect with than here's this person you don't know that wasn't willing to even reach out to you and ask for your help. Here, can you help them though? That's not somebody I necessarily want to help. They'd have to take the initiative and come to me first, which I'd be more than happy to. Not that anybody wants my wisdom and all that, but you know, I'd be more than happy at that point. But.
And I mean, we all know the School of Business isn't that old, and I really want to applaud the alums that are being active and the support they're getting. And I like the idea that within our School of Business, we have the business and public and nonprofit side all together. And so we have a great potential to have networks, not just in our own field, but just hopefully with the message I gave today, they're really interconnected. And it's when we can put together the collaborations of the different sectors that we can accomplish even more.
I just want to back that up. I think Hamlin's in a very unique position with having all three of these schools in the School of Business to create a porous connection to the city of St. Paul and to greater Minnesota. We have a bit of a membrane around the school itself, and that is a great place for academic learning, and our institution is its own community. But by reaching out through the various schools of business, public administration and nonprofits, and keeping that relationship with St. Paul and Minnesota very porous and open, that we have the opportunity to build that community and create greater circles of constituency out there. But just to piggyback, when I first became executive director of Art Shanties, I went into the neighborhood in the city in which we present our art project to the businesses, and we're a nonprofit, and I said, you know, if I gave you certain date ranges, would you be able to track your gross income? I just asked for advice. I'm trying to put together some data. Can you track your gross income while we were in town? And businesses that did that for me found that they had a 30% increase in gross sales, and suddenly they became interested in giving us money and making sure that we would present again in that community, because I asked for advice. I asked for data, and I think data is really important and something that hasn't been discussed as being part of that social capital, but really having the numbers to back that up. It's meaningful to people in various sectors for various reasons. It's meaningful to grant makers, it's meaningful to businesses to have data to process and to put a number behind the anecdotal information.
And I would encourage you, I mean, I know many of you today are the public and nonprofit side, but as we look particularly at projects and capstones, I mean, I hear from the current students, they really want to work on projects that are going to have some meaning. So as you come up with things, I mean, you should be thinking about how might I utilize students in the work, and again, remembering it isn't just public administration, nonprofit management, but the MBA. And we see more and more people getting dual degrees. So I think you can play a role in sort of offering or seeking support from Hamlin on interesting projects. And I think we have a very open faculty that are looking to connect with those kind of projects as we go through. Well, thank you. So good to see so many of you. And just keep looking for upcoming courses on social capital that will be coming in Hamlin.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jim. Just before you head out, I just wanted to give you a brief update. We have a meeting, the events committee. We're meeting in a week or two. And one of the things we're trying to do, we've received feedback that we get a lot of harassment about the time of day of these meetings. And so what our goal is, we're going to work to kind of put together a more comprehensive annual plan so that we can provide events at different times of the day, different locations, some more formal and educational, some less formal and interactive and networking. So we're really excited. We have a great committee that's coming together, and my vision, and we may or may not make it work this year, but maybe next year, is to every month have an opportunity for you to engage with this network that is an incredible network in a formal or informal manner at different times of the day. So keep your eye open for that plan coming up. We always welcome your feedback and participation, so feel free to reach out and go forth and do good things.